Hello, everyone. We're just letting everyone join us. Great to have you all here. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started since we have limited time. Welcome. My name is Nicole Munson, and I am the Ops and Program Manager here at American Friends of Combatants for Peace. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first talk with us, Combatants for Peace is a joint Israeli-Palestinian community working in solidarity to end the occupation, discrimination, and oppression. We believe in a world where all people from the river to the sea live in peace with justice, dignity, and liberty. The movement was founded about 20 years ago by Israeli and Palestinian fighters from opposing sides who choose to lay down their weapons and work together for peace and justice. They've been nominated 2 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. American Friends is the US arm of the movement and makes up a diverse community that extends beyond borders to work for collective liberation in Palestine and Israel. Our talk today is called The Power of Collective Grief, Ex-Combatants Healing Across Divides. And we'll hear from several folks from Combats for Peace and a few others that we've recently met, which you'll get introduced to soon. And we invite audience members to ask questions throughout. So if you want to ask a question, please send those to in the chat to Tiffany. Her name says send questions here. I would also like to introduce our moderator for today's talk, Gabriella Ginsburg. Gabriella works in the works in the Disarmament, Demobilization, and Reintegration section at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Her work supports armed groups and ex-combatants to find pathways out of violence. She is originally from Jerusalem. So thank you, Gabriella, for facilitating our discussion today. I will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Nicole, so much. I'm so honored to be here with all of you and especially with our lovely panelists. We have 4 very special speakers for you today, all former combatants who've done their own journey of transformation and healing, including humanizing the other. So I think without further ado, I'll quickly introduce them to you. We have Avner Vishnitzer, who's a former elite Israeli commando combatant and the co-founder of Combatants for Peace, and he is now a professor and a nonviolent activist. We also have Ahmed Hilu, a former Hamas member turned nonviolent activist with Combatants for Peace, working towards justice and dignity for all. We're also honored to have today with us Rezo Okujava, who's a war veteran and refugee from Abkhazia, and now a university history teacher promoting healing through education. And last but not least, we're joined by Nodar Zvizhba, who is an artist and former intelligence officer, now mentoring youth and fostering reconciliation through art. As briefly mentioned, I work in a piece of the UN that specializes in working with armed groups and ex-combatants and supporting their pathways out of violence. This takes all shapes and sizes, but one flagship project of ours is on the political transformation of armed groups. This basically means supporting armed groups and ex-combatants to pursue their political aspirations in nonviolent means. We do this with a partner organization called the Berekov Foundation. And under this project, we had the privilege of hosting Avner, Ahmed, Rezo, and Nodar recently, among others, in a powerful ex-combatant peer exchange this January. So I think Combatants for Peace wanted to bring this exchange to you as well. And so here we are. And I know time is limited, so I'd like to kick off the conversation with Rezo and Nodar. Since your context may not be so familiar to those in the audience, I would love to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself and share in your own words what is currently happening on the ground in Georgia and Abkhazia, and specifically how each of your societies are dealing with or not dealing with grief and trauma from the conflict. A lot to get through. Reza, would you like to potentially start? The floor is yours.
Ragazzi, batoни nodari tu ekneba survili. ყველას მოგესალმებით. მადლობა დიდი, რომ ბერქოფი ყოველთვის გვაძლევს ამ საშუალებას, რომ ერთმანეთს ვესაუბროთ, განსაკუთრებით ნოდარს მინდა მივესალმო და ჯანმრთელობა მინდა უსურვო მას.
else.
30 წელი გავიდა მე ვარ
It's 30 years. I'm Rezo Kujava, and I do not teach now in the university. I work in the administration right now. I was teaching at school earlier. 30 years have passed since I am a refugee, since I became a refugee in Georgia, and little by little, this sense of being a refugee, this acute feeling of being a refugee in the beginning, now it actually becomes less and less stronger because I have created family here. I have children. They are already grown ups, and they say that they are from Sukhumi, but they were born in Batumi actually. They love this city where I was born. They know about this city, and in Georgia. This memory, of course, still exists because not much time passed. About 30 years has passed since after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when the Abkhazia and Spring Valley region conflicts, and then the Russia-Georgian war in 2008, etc. So all this is common memories still exists, and there is a memory that I have personally about all of this, and many things are happening which does not allow us losing these memories. But this memory shall help us in understanding everything that happened around us, both good and bad. And in Georgia, from this standpoint, of course, society tries to somehow not forget all this because I want to tell you that many films, some documentaries, or feature movies, music, arts are dedicated to these conflicts to this nearest past that allows youth to understand and to have their own attitudes toward this. What I'm happy about is that our current generation has a correct understanding of all these conflicts, of all these processes. And what's the most important, in my opinion, is that they also the Soviet Georgian society has already more demand for a peace. They want a peaceful resolution, because otherwise, for me, it's just unimaginable. In order to have this memory, many things are happening. There's also, I think, about this post-Soviet so-called memorials, some special places where we go, where we remember those people whose names are inscribed on this. We do not have many graves, this is also part of the memory. And today, I don't know why, but many are trying to find the graves of their children, of their brothers, parents. And this is normal process, I believe, and process also implies that many of them are coming to an agreement to return their dead and to rebury them on this side, on our so-called our territory. to have an access to this graves. And I can tell you that also the church is very actively involved in this process. And I believe that in Georgia, this religious factor, the church factor, is very important. And in many cases, it is even decisive and very important. So what else? Those people who have gone through all this during all these decades, you remember, Mr. Nodar remembers that we've been speaking that, for instance, September 27, the day of when Sokhumi fell, that's how we perceive this in Georgia. Of course, this is a mourning day. We are going to the graves. We are conducting some meetings, some remembrance services, remember Abkhazia, etc. We are speaking about such things. But on the other side, it's one day is mourning this day. Why? Because several thousand people died during these days, and symbolically we call it the day of falling of Sohumi. But I don't agree with this term myself personally. But the other side is actually celebrating this day. Maybe not September 27, but they are celebrating the Independence and Victory Day. I don't know. This history will assess this. I believe we've always been somehow we're victims of these violent events, but somehow our internal force allowed us to overcome in our memory this aggression and allowed us to stand firmly on the peace principles. And so it's a part of this collective common memory, the so-called compact settlements of the refugees from Abkhazia, from Samachabalo, from Tsin Valley. And I believe that this is also not normal, in my opinion, because bringing together all these people who are coming from the same tragedy, from the same pain, that's not a good idea. And what can I say? After the post-war generation, the generation that was born after the war, our children, I say once again that they have, in my opinion, they are more tolerant, they have more correct attitudes towards these memories, and they have a wish to have, in my opinion, they want to think critically and to critically understand all these details that brought us to this big tragedy, to the war that made the brothers kill each other. So that's why I think that the time will come when we will be able to build one big wall, one big memorial, commemorate. I remember Mr. Nodar said such thing. I think I don't remember when this was, but he said that at this stage, maybe Georgian and Abkhazian mothers, I think he meant this, might be able to somehow to make some steps, and probably this part of the society is more prepared. And I think that together with them, young people are ready for many things, and they're ready for common and joint business. And I think that it might seem a little bit rhetorical, but I believe that we have some common future. This our memory will be joint for us. I mean, it will be common memory for us, for Georgians, for Abkhazians. I think that's going to be very good lesson for the future peace. That's thank you.
Thank you so much, Rezo. Very rich, and I can hear in your conversation how you're wrestling with the memory of the past and talking a lot about the youth and younger generation trying to learn and unlearn the past, maybe through art and some other pathways. I think it's pretty powerful. though you still seem to have some criticism about how this has all been going about. So it's still a work in progress. And I would love to give Nodar the floor to compliment, from your perspective, Nodar, how are things on the ground and how is collective grief and memory in your eyes being preserved? And please, of course, introduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Добрый вечер.
Good evening.
Я Нодар Цвирп, художник, преподаю
My name is Nodar Cvișpa. I'm an artist. I'm at the same time a teacher at the art school.
Прошел войну.
I did take part in the war.
Когда вы ставите вопрос, честно говоря, когда я получал вопрос, я
When I received the list of questions and I was reading through them,
кого-то критиковать, но я понимал, насколько вы не
I'm not here to
обладаете
criticize
ситуацией.
anybody,
Я
but
вынужден
the
это
list of
говорить,
questions actually
немного
was a good
неудобный
example for me that you are not
собеседник.
well acquainted
Вот,
with the
потому
situation
что
on the ground, actually.
а,
I'm not
то, о
saying
чем
it
мы говорим
to blame
сейчас,
anybody or
то,
anything,
что
because what we
Резо
are
говорил,
discussing now,
я
based on what
слышал, но
Rezo
у меня
started
это
talking about,
появилась освободительная война.
I was
По
hearing
моему
his words,
народу
but for me,
пришлось провести
from
освободительную
my
войну.
angle, it was a
И сейчас
war of
сидеть у себя
liberation.
на родине,
My people had
плакать о
to
том,
go to war for
что вы не смогли
liberation.
что-то захватить, то как-то
And
неприлично.
sitting there on the other
Это в моем
side,
представлении.
kind of
Если мы хотим,
being said that you didn't
если
manage
вы
to
хотите
invade
в Европе,
and
если вы
seize
хотите
something,
в
it's
Грузии,
not appropriate,
мир с
I believe.
Абхазами, Абхазов на
So if you
сегодня 100
want
тысяч.
peace with
Мы никогда
Abkhazians,
никому
there are only
не захватили
100,000
ни
of
земли,
us
ни
here.
Болгарии. В
We
нашей истории
never
этого нет.
never
Мы
threatened
не рождали
anybody.
никаких
We
каких-либо
never
диктаторов,
invaded
которые
anybody. We
захватывали
never
чужие
had any
земли.
kind of
Вы
dictatorship
можете
that would
посмотреть
go
историю.
to the war of conquest.
Просто наша
Just look through
история, если на
history.
нас посмотреть, да,
So
и
if
как это
you
все
take a look at the
происходило,
history from our point of
то вы
view and
поймете,
how it all
вынуждены
was
были
happening,
вклиниться в
you
войну. Мы не
would understand
собирались,
that we had
просто к
to
нам приехали
fight.
на танках.
We never
Я всего
intended
лишь
to, but people
художник, я не
came
собирался,
down
я и
our
в
lane
армии
on a
не был.
tank. When somebody is
Мое
strolling
видение.
down your lane on a tank, you have
Вот.
only one way to deal
Если с
with
нами
it.
кто-то хочет говорить,
So
мы
if anybody
всегда были
wants to talk to
открыты,
us, we are
мы
always
будем
open
говорить с равными.
and we will talk
Тут я
as
вынужден говорить,
peers.
обычно нас говорят про какой-то русскость или
Quite
привязанность к
often we are
России.
being accused of
Это единственная держава,
being
которая сказала нам,
actually dependent on
хотя бы
Russia
где
and
это не звучало,
channeling
что мы
Russian
ровня, то есть мы
interests.
с ними
But
равны.
Russia is actually the only country which considered and
И
accepted
это
us as
на
peers,
Кавказе, особенно
as
на
equals.
Кавказе, любой
And
народ,
especially in Caucasus,
малочисленный он или
any
большечисленный,
people,
не имеет
regardless of the
значения. На
numbers,
Кавказе с вами будут
whether it's
говорить,
a
если вы считаете с ними на равных.
large people or a small kind of
И
people,
что
they only will
касается
treat you
памятника, который
seriously
вы
if you
сказали,
treat them as
уважаемые,
equals. As for
да, я
the
говорил о памятнике.
memorial
Это сделать
that you
между
mentioned,
нами, у нас река
yes, I
протекает
did.
между нашими народами.
I did mention it in our previous
На этой реке сделать
conference.
прекрасный мост.
Yes, we've got the river
Дружбе ходить друг к
between
другу
us. We
и
can
больше
build
не
a
занимать
bridge.
ничью землю.
We can build a bridge across it and call it the
Понимаете,
bridge of
когда
friendship and just
мне
walk across
говорят,
it to
что
visit each other
жертва,
as
агрессор
friends.
и жертва, они оба
But
пострадали, это как-то смешно.
because saying that
Понимаете,
aggressors
как
and
это неправильно.
victims
И
suffered
если мы это
equally,
сделаем,
it's not
тут толерантно я
appropriate.
работаю с молодежью, я очень
Yes,
много
I do
делаю с
work with
молодежью.
youth.
Я
I
учу
do
их.
work with young
Вы
people a
знаете,
lot. I
как
actually teach them.
это как-то саморекламой звучит, но я даже во время
It might
войны в
sound as
Европе, я читал
self-promotion,
грузинских
but
классиков,
even sitting
Абхазов.
in the trenches, I was
Чтобы
reading
они понимали, что
Georgian
и там,
poetry
и
to
тут
Abkhazians in
такое
order
происходит.
for them
Но
to remember that
войны
there are
в
people on the other
честь
side
и
as well.
грузин, и абхазов, я
But
могу сказать,
wars
войны не начинают Абхазии и грузины.
actually
По
are not being
большому
started
счету в мире, в
by
современном мире,
common
войны
people, by Georgians or
начинаются в больших
Abkhazians in
мегаполисах.
In the modern world, wars are being initiated in the large states, in the large metropolitan capitals. And this mutual game of superstates makes small peoples down there fight with each other. This is how it's happening. Maybe today or tomorrow we will be forced by mentioned superstates to sign a peace treaty or whatever, but it's never ending with actual peace treaties. You remember in Soviet Union, everything was covered with posters and banners about equality, friendship, and justice, but none of those things were to be found, actually. And not that I'm pessimist, but I simply do not see any potential of solving this issue because people are not talking to us about equality and being on a par with the counterparts. People are talking to us about being kind. We are kind. We are not getting into anybody's business because you are entitled to have the state. Why won't we be entitled to have a state? Unless we recognize equality, nothing will be solved. Because the conflict, our conflict, and many conflicts, they did not start overnight. They do not count decades only. They count actually millennia. Unless every people is the master in their own lands, the conflicts will go on. This is a simple answer to this question. In the educational institutions that I'm teaching in my own studio, it's my studio in the College of Arts. I've got students, Georgian, couple of Armenians, Russians, Abkhazians, Greeks. Sukhumi always was international city. And I'm talking to each of them, explaining to them that, yes, of course, you can have your own culture at the same time respecting the environment you are living in, because it's like a palette of different colors. You need all hues to paint a proper picture. You can't imagine the world literature without Georgian literature, right? Or the family of languages of the world won't be full without Abkhazian either. So this is how I see things. So if we want peace for future, this peace should be peace between equals and not counting people by sheer numbers of how many people do they have. They are not cattle. Maybe I'm a little bit chaotic in my speech, but I'm being an artist. I'm emotional. I'm not politician. That's why I'm probably jumping to and fro between topics. But talking about prospects, I'm more than confident. What I would agree with that our children in future, I'm more than confident. I'm absolutely sure that they will have peace, or at least I want to believe it, and this is what I would aspire to. Thank you.
May I just add one more thing? Where I lived in the city, of course, I was living together with Abkhazians and these people in Batumi, where I live now, Jara region, where it's one of the regions of Georgia. And in the city, we have thousands of Abkhazian persons, and they, like me, are living equal. They are equal. They are equal, and they have equal opportunities of living and development. It's about 100 years that they're here. What I want to say, we have an experience that we can live together. And today, in the 21st century, everything is more globalized, and I think that we all. May I ask you one question?
If you don't mind me making a question.
Do you hear me?
Скажут, что это Грузия, не Грузия, а Абхазия. Что вы с ними сделаете?
Rezo, a note.
If those who are living in Batumi will tell you that Batumi is no longer Georgia and it should be considered Abkhazia.
Everybody has
I'm going to jump in here. Really, thank you so much for both of your perspectives. Nodar, I think it was a sobering reminder that we all have different narratives and ways to understand, history. And I'm sure you know in Israel and Palestine, one person's war of independence was the other person's Nakba. And that's exactly what Combatants for Peace are grappling with in these past weeks. So I think what you're saying really, really resonates with a lot of Israelis and Palestinians as well. We're trying to commemorate while war is still ongoing. We're trying to teach people about history while we still haven't equalized and humanized everyone. So, yes, there's some progress being made. And Rezo, you spoke about this, but Nodar, you're also expressing the desire to still be seen as equal and human, which may not be happening in the ways that it should. So I know it wasn't fair for us to ask you to summarize everything happening on your land in 5 minutes. There's so much more to learn from you, and hopefully we will get to that at the end as well. But I would really love, not for me to speak, but for Ahmed and Avner to maybe reflect from their perspective, hearing these conversations, what they feel is similar or different with society in Israel and Palestine right now. Similarly, we're commemorating both Nakba and independence, Israeli independence and Palestinian Nakba, and we're dealing with history while also being very much in present war still. So maybe we're more alike than we think. And Ahmed, Avner, does any of you want to start with some reflections? Avner? Go ahead. Please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to thank the previous speakers because also following the last conversation we had, it made me think both about what is common, but also about what is different in our situation. And the first thing I want to highlight about what's different is that the killing is going on right now. And this is the most important thing for me to say. Killing in Gaza, starvation, mass killing, deportation, it's all happening as we speak. And the world and my society is largely mute. Nobody says anything, and it just goes on and on and on for months on end. And as an Israeli and as a Jew and as a human being, I'm ashamed of the fact that we are unable to stop it. And I also want to mention that at the same time, in the West Bank, displacement and a military activity on a massive scale and house demolition is going on in an unprecedented pace. So I just want to start with that because this is not some aloof conversation in which we can muse about, memory. This is the present. And it is from this present, which is, bleeding, literally bleeding. I don't know the numbers for today, but I hear they're very high again. It is from this point that we are trying to feel the pain and the humanity of the other side. And since the killing is going on, and since not only Palestinians, which is obvious, but also Israelis are afraid and they are suspicious, and people don't necessarily want to listen or open their hearts. So I begin that way, not only to use the opportunity to remind all of us that we need to take action, but also to explain why the challenge of grieving together is so difficult. And what we're trying to do in Combating for Peace in general, but specifically in the two ceremonies that we are now right in the middle between them, the joint Israeli-Palestinian memorial ceremony that took place last week, and the joint Nakba ceremony, which will take place on the 15th of May and will be broadcast live around the world. What we are trying to do is to insist that it is only by open conversation about not just about ideas and principles but about emotions, about what we feel. And I'm a historian, so I deal with what happened or what we understand that happened. But as a historian, I understand that understandings of history and emotions about historical narratives, and they are active in history. That means that they shape things as we go. They shape historical processes, and we need to understand this emotional baggage, and we need to be able to speak about it. So, for example, and Ahmad will speak about his own experience and understanding afterwards, but for me to be able to understand Ahmad's personal story and the story of his family and of his neighborhood and of, and of Gaza, from which he originally came and his family came and so on, is to understand the big whole that is Palestine, Israel, that land that we live in. Because we cannot understand only one part of it. In any other context, we would say understanding such a complex situation from one side is completely ludicrous. It doesn't make sense. But here in this conflict, people constantly tell the story from one side and claim to hold the truth. This is not, it doesn't make sense, neither analytically nor emotionally. I cannot understand Ahmad or any other Palestinian without understanding the experience, the narrative and the experiences and the emotions that are connected with these experiences. And this is what we're trying to do in those memorials. First of all, to be able to empathize, even sympathize with people, with human beings, even if they are on the other side of the wall, let's say. And since we came from, originally we were involved in the active violence and shifted to non-violence, we call upon everybody else to join us in this transformation and transform even the pain and the loss for our beloved ones into an engine of transformation. So that's another important point. We take these days that are almost sacred or sacred in Israeli and Palestinian societies and are usually used to just boost the othering and often the dehumanization of the other. We insist of having them, marking them together in order to rehumanize the other, and thereby changing the pain into sympathy and hope. And one last point, in so doing, we are not just saying we are all human and we are all victims of this conflict. First of all, we emphasize the power relations. There is no symmetry. And this is a point that we need to make again and again. Right now, Israel is the powerful side. It occupies, and the Palestinians are occupied. It does not mean that they have no responsibility or agency. Of course, they do. But the power relation is critical. But more important than that, by commemorating our lost ones and our histories of pain and loss together, we take responsibility for what's lying ahead. So looking back into history, personal and societal, is a way of shaping a different future. And that future-oriented look is what we are trying to promote ultimately. It's not about what happened. We cannot change what happened, but we can change where we go next. And this is how we suggest to understand both these ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avner. So many wonderful nuggets in there, from reminding us about the power of empathy. And that doesn't mean losing space for individual narratives and pain and power relations, but insisting on that internal work as well as your external kind of activism and work. And also, I think what you said at the end, reminding us all that this is about the future and the better future for our children, which also Nodar and Rezo spoke about. The past is already, in the past. So thank you for those words. And Ahmed, I invite you please to compliment as well, to respond to our comrades here, Rezo and Nodar, and also to give your perspective on Palestinian society and grieving while all of this is still ongoing, while still maybe holding space for a vision of a future. Over to you, Ahmed.
Thank you so much to give me space to talk. First, I'm Ahmed. I live in Jericho. My roots came from Gaza. Till now, I have family there. Just to mention that after the 7th of October till now, I lost 160 members in my family during all that. So the Nakba, it's continuous. Our Nakba, our catastrophe is not stopped. It's continued till now. We're looking for a better life, as you said, Gabriella, to our children. But I don't know if it's still children in Gaza till now or not, because this war, more than 70% from the death or killed, they are children. And now the children, they don't have food, don't have water, don't have anything. But in all that, we're looking for our future. We try to be optimist. We have the Memorial Day and the ceremony of Nakba or the catastrophe will come. And we hope that it will be the end or the last event. We will do it because we will get, inshallah. Sorry, I have something else. Okay. I have to have the liberation as a Palestine for the Palestinians. That's what we're looking for. In general, I said, as a Palestinian, we are lucky, and in the same time, we are unlucky. We are unlucky because we face or our problem with the Jewish, with the Zionist. There is the war, the freedom war. They don't hear us. They don't see us. They see, they looking for, they take care about the Zionist narrative, the Jewish narrative, and they don't see the Palestinian themselves. The world, when they talking about the 7th of October, they talking about the kidnapping people, but they don't talk about the people who's killed. Right now, more than 50,000 Palestinians killed. Today, as Avner said, just today, 93 Palestinians killed. 93 in Gaza. As I said, I have family there, my sisters, my parents-in-law. uncles, aunts, in any minute, maybe I will get bad news about one of them killed and from the 7th of October till now, I am in memorial, in mourning, because of this death. We are lucky also because the Jewish themselves, they occupied us. The people and the international world, they know us right now. They hear about the Palestinian issue, about the Palestinian people. They know there is people suffering from occupation. And I know, and you know that also. The international give the Palestinians the right to fight the occupation, to get them liberation. And that's all. That's what the Palestinians do, for sure. As Ahmed and the combatants, we are against using violence, and we try to prove that non-violence is the only way to get our right. But as Palestinian, and when I look forward or look around me up in the world, I don't see anyone care about the Palestinian rights. With all this dark vision of the Palestinians, we still fight in non-violence, and we still looking for our future. We said maybe today no one hearing us, no one seeing us, but tomorrow it will change. So we will try to keep the candle light and take it forward. We got a lot of supports from the Israeli friends, and that's what keep our candle still light, really. When I feel I am this, what's call it, like angry or something that direct, Avner called me and asking about my feeling, asking about how I feel, how just when he said, how are you? And many Israelis also the same. So that gives me a lot of hope, a lot of energy to continue. So our relation, it's not just working together or helping or planting trees or harvest olives or helping the Palestinians, Bedouin, shepherd, as a Palestinian and as a combatants for peace active in the ground. No, just also to build the relation between the Palestinian and Israeli, to be a strong relation and strong relation to can go forward all together. Thank you so much again. And yeah, hope to continue in this way.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for your powerful words. You managed to make me feel both ashamed and hopeful at the same time. So really thank you for your camaraderie. I think we can hear there are similarities and differences between the stories in Israel and Palestine and Georgia and Abkhazia. and maybe they speak to an attempt to hold on to some humanity and hope in dark hours, and maybe a responsibility and importance for local action as well as global solidarity and exchanges between these contexts. I know we talked about context in the societies because we think it is important, and you had mentioned superpowers, and the situation happening every day affects us as individuals. But I do want to also give space to your individual work and to how you, in light of all this context, process, heal, transform together or separately. And I would love for you to spotlight whatever piece of work you would like to choose. Rezo and Nodar, I know you have worked on a special oral history project that does aim to overcome the silence of history and acknowledge grievances and caused by violence and injustice on all sides. Maybe you want to touch upon this. Avner and Ahmed, you already mentioned the two Memorial Day ceremonies, but please feel free to complement with anything deeper on your personal actions and transformations. But in light of time, I would like to start maybe with Nodar and Rezo and give you an opportunity to also respond to Avner and Ahmed and talk about individually what you're doing in light of all the difficult contexts we just spoke about. So Nodar, I give you the floor, please.
Ну, и по большому счету, конечно, я человек не столь общественный, я не люблю политику.
I'm not that public person at all. I do not like politics. I'm more engaged into arts. What do? I teach younger people, I teach kids, and it's a good opportunity. I believe in general, this is my belief, that if you approach all of these things from the arts angle, doing some cultural things, maybe organizing exhibitions, then you can find some common points, some points of mutual connection. And when I'm working with children, I'm just telling them that you need to be honest with yourself. You need to keep your conscience clean. Because as soon as you are honest with your own self, and this is my strong belief, this will condition his relationship with other people as well. He will start treating them the way he would have liked himself to be treated. So when you want to be treated properly, you need to treat people properly as well. This is a relationship culture, and only through such an approach you can build up the system of relationship at all. This is my worldview, and this is what I'm trying to instill into children. Currently, my active project is Kids Cultural Center, because globally, or at least I believe that this is so, through the information that I'm finding through internet, that nowadays kids are being taught in schools some patriotic feelings, the feeling that you are living in the besieged fortress, that you are surrounded by enemies and things like that. And I'm trying to teach them that you should not just declare that you are going to do some good deeds, but you should start doing good deeds through your own behavior on a personal level in an everyday life. Coming back to peaceful life after the war does require some effort. It requires some labor. Not that I'm trying to preach Darwin's teachings to you that labor turned monkey into human being, but if you've got anything to do, if you've got any work, it helps you to resocialize, rehabilitate yourself. Of course, the wounds do not disappear. You'll keep on struggling with them, but it helps. It helps in healing. Maybe it's individual how these wounds and traumas express themselves, regardless of the background and ethnicity. And it's a matter of choice. Every choice you make, it's always between dark and light. And being engaged in arts helps you to choose light on every turn. So this is something that I'm trying to teach my students about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nodar. So much to the point. I think the UN could learn a thing or two about including arts in our work as well. So I couldn't agree more about the entry point, and the importance of that work. Rezo, looking at you, if you would like to share a little bit, what are you doing on a personal level to transform and heal trauma and engage in your society?
I would like to share with Ahmed. I share his pain and his grievance, and I see how Avner is also concerned about all this, and I think that's a great example that the world is too small today. When, for instance, I see this video photo of children from Gaza, I also feel like Ahmed or Anwar or Mr. Nodar. We know what this pain is, and I also feel responsible for this. That's why I'm here, and because I also want to share my experience, and I have Jewish friends, I have Palestinians are also living here in Batumi, and I know them, and that's how this world is very small, and we are part of this world, and so how we can participate in this reality, and what can I do to change all this? I'm constantly thinking about this, but I think that you should serve, and one should serve as an example. They know me as a veteran of war, but it might be surprising, but when I speak about these issues, about the conflicts that we had in the past in Georgia, I want to tell you that, for instance, even integration of the refugees is very difficult in the society where we live. Why this happens, that's very difficult to explain. But I was telling Mrs. Rusiko yesterday that in our university they call me Abkhazian, part of the students when they are listening to me, because for them, sometimes it might be, my position might be unacceptable. I always say that main thing is responsibility that Avner has mentioned. Main thing is responsibility, to take responsibility, that the society takes responsibility, and somehow influence the politicians, policies, politics that are run by certain groups today. I think that's nothing if we don't unite, and if we do not start thinking, we Abkhazians, Jews, Palestinians, everything together, how can we change all these politics that we see throughout the globe today, these violent policies, which we unfortunately observe. Neither Ahmed nor Avner, not Nodar, not me personally won't be able to do this. That's why we shall unite, and we shall all do this together. We shall turn into somehow big global movement. So in university, I might, for instance, I might conduct lecture or give an interview. That's of course clear. That's, I understand, that's understood normal, but I can bring very many examples of coexistence, of peaceful coexistence that might help us to build the peace process in the future, and in our families, what is planned in our country, some health programs, etc., etc., and integration programs and education programs and the Abkhazian language, etc., etc. But I think that today everything is at the higher level. We have much very difficult situation, and that's why it's very important to unite everybody. When we, for us, all this is. I don't even know how to express this, how to describe this, but this peace policies, how can we develop these policies? We, veterans of war, because this we are more able to do this because they might listen to us. Young people might listen to us because that's we have first-hand experience of all this, and what will happen today in the country, I won't start thinking about this because I don't think that's important. In my opinion, what is more important is our the persons, the veterans for certain parts of the society, professors, etc., etc. So the world is silent today. We see the world is silent, and that's why nothing changes. And we experience all this, but we are unable to overcome this violence. And today, there's 93 people who died today in Gaza. I don't know. That's terrible, you know. And I feel this when I hear such things. I still feel myself in the war, and that's that. I said that.
Thank you, Rezo.
Thank you for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a reminder that we're all essentially on the same side, and also the power that ex-combatants and the role ex-combatants have to play as peace builders, and you all embody that. And I also believe ex-combatants can be some of the best form of peace builders. We're coming up against time. I do want to give Ahmed and Avner the last word before I pass back the baton to Nicole and Tiffany. Ahmed, if you want to say just a few words about your personal actions and acts or work towards transformation and healing, please, I give you the floor.
Sorry, I don't hear you in the beginning. Just
Just
what
to
you asked
say,
me because
of course, we're wrapping up, but if there is any last thing you want to say, especially as an individual, what are you doing now through Combatants for Peace or yourself to keep this work of transformation and healing alive?
okay, in general, we try to prove to our people that our path is the correct one, which called the non-violence active, and also we try as we can to let them so the two faces or the other faces of the Israelis, let me say, because they already made the settlers, they already made the soldiers, but they don't met the Israelis who's against the soldier and the settler. So we go all together, Palestinian and Israelis, to the Bedouin community, to the villages, to help them, to talk with them, to meet them, to planting trees, to harvest olives. We try to give them the hope and try to give them the really the different narrative of what they facing and what they living daily, to give them some hope, as I said, to go forward to our mission, to prove that we can live all together. Avner, if you want to continue also.
Please, Avner.
First of all, I want to thank Nodar and Rezo because like last time, listening to you, I thinking also about our situation and how some of this is just universal, and I join Rezo in the call for coming together because there's so many conflicts and so many veterans. And to thank you, Gabriella, for making these connections possible. We've been talking about such connections for many years now in Combatants for Peace, and we were in touch with former combatants in other places, but we never had the framework for interacting with people from different places at the same time. So thank you for that, and I hope there'll be we will continue that. I want to take the last minute once again to remind us all there is no healing while the killing is going on. Please, please, please do something, whatever you can. Write to your member of Congress. Write to the newspapers. Take actual action, because it's not. I mean, I mentioned emotions and how important they are, but right now we need to save lives and to save also Israeli hostages who are being left to die in Gaza. So there are lives at stake, and we need to do whatever we can to save them. So that's my, what I want to leave you with.
Thank you. Thank you, Avner. I don't think there's any more left to say. It's such an honor to be around all four of you, and I do hope for more spaces of exchange and hope the whole audience, I'm sorry we didn't have you participate this time, but you got to see a peek of this important work and exchanges. And thank you to Combatants for Peace and American Friends. And Nicole, I pass it back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Gabriella. We're so grateful for all of you who joined us today. And we want to say again, thank you to our speakers for taking the time to share with us about their experiences and how they're working to grieve collectively and on individual levels. Just a quick reminder, as Avner and Ahmed mentioned, we have a joint Nakba Remembrance Ceremony coming up next Thursday, May 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern, which will be a time for us to join to collectively grieve together. So you can register using the link in the chat for that, as well as on our website. And we hope that you will join us next week. Thank you all so much.